ini kenapa? Kali gue keyboard aja, hardware lagi broken.
The letter is on the table, Holmes.
Masih aja
The letter is on the table, Holmes. You should take a look.
oh iya kan.
The letter is on the table, Holmes. You should take a look.
Oh, ini.
A wax seal with the monogram EB.
EB.
I can tell from Lestrade's handwriting that he was in a hurry when he wrote this letter. The Brackenstall family coat of arms.
So, what is it, Holmes?
Promising, as always. It appears to be a case of murder.
So you believe that Sir Eustace is dead?
I should say so. Lestrade wouldn't have sent for me for less. His writing shows considerable agitation, and he is not an emotional man. These people belong to high society. The quality of the writing paper, the EB monogram, their coat of arms. The crime was committed before midnight.
Holmes, how can you possibly tell?
Well, it is all thanks to Lestrade. He wrote his letter at 3:30 in the morning. Imagine the chain of events before that. The local police had to be called in. Scotland Yard was notified. Lestrade himself had to make haste there, and finally compose the letter he sent to me. All of that makes for a fair night's work.
It makes sense. Lestrade also speaks of the woman he released.
That seems to indicate that she had been held somewhere during the crime. Much time has been wasted. Let us find a cab and go to Abbey Grange immediately. I live in hope of an interesting morning.
Kayak cara apa ya? Tahu.
Mr. Holmes and Dr. Watson, here you are. I'm very glad that you have come, but perhaps I should not have troubled you after all.
And why is that?
Lady Brackenstall has come to her senses, and she has given so clear an account of the affair that there is not much left for us to do. You remember that Lewisham gang of burglars?
What, the three Randalls?
Exactly. The father and two sons. It's their work. They stole a silver service, which is of great value.
Sir Eustace Brackenstall is dead, then?
Yes. His head was knocked in with his own poker.
A violent act of aggression.
Yes, the poor lady. She has had a most dreadful experience. She was assaulted and tied to a chair. But I think that you would best see her and hear her account of the facts. She's in the morning room with her maid, Teresa Wright.
Where is the body of the deceased?
In the dining room. We haven't touched anything.
All right, I'm going to examine it.
Very good, Watson.
Ini cewek. Kan?
Ladies,
ada.
allow me to introduce
Buset,
myself. My
nomor
name is
gitu.
Sherlock Holmes. I'm assisting Inspector Lestrade in this investigation.
Mr. Holmes, I am the wife of Sir Eustace Brackenstall. We were married only a year ago.
I am sorry for your loss. Please accept my deepest condolences.
I suppose that it is no use my attempting to conceal that our marriage has not been a happy one. I fear that all would tell you that, even if I were to attempt to deny it.
Kita ini. Bikin tes. Di mana? Bikin tes. Oh ini.
Can you describe to me the events of yesterday evening?
Is it really necessary?
Tanya,
I have already told
Lu
Inspector
ngapain?
Lestrade all that happened.
Yes, madam, it is.
I will tell you then. Sir Eustace retired about 10:30. I sat in this room until after 11, absorbed in a book. Before I went upstairs, I entered the dining room to fetch a candle and, oh God,
Please, go on.
as I approached the French window, I found myself face to face with an elderly, broad-shouldered man who had just stepped into the room. Close behind the first man,
nyelinap.
I saw two others. One of them struck me a savage blow with his fist and felled me unconscious to the ground.
And then?
When I came to myself, I found that they had secured me tightly to a dining room chair. It was at that instant my unfortunate husband entered the room.
He fought with the intruders?
Yes, I think he had heard them, for he was holding his stick. But they were three, and he eventually succumbed. One of them, the elder one, struck him a terrible blow with the poker. I fainted once more. When I opened my eyes, they had withdrawn. Then my brave Teresa came to my assistance.
Samci.
Did these three villains steal anything?
Yes, I found that they had taken the silver from the sideboard, but you can see for yourself in the dining room.
Kita ngomong.
You mentioned that your marriage was not a happy one. Was there anything specific that was troubling you?
He was not a nice man when he was drunk, and he suffered from dark moods, but nothing else.
You mentioned that your marriage was not a happy one. Was there anything specific that was troubling you?
He was not a nice man when he was drunk, and he suffered from dark moods, but nothing else.
The bruises on your hands are at least 1 week old. Your husband caused those bruises?
Oh, do you?
This
Yes, he did. He was very angry at the time, out of control. again. Sir Eustace was a drunkard. To be tied to such a man for life is worse than death.
Your ladyship? Teresa, I would like to hear your testimony.
Certainly, sir.
Kita cek dulu orang. Lalu kita harus cek orang. Oke. Bahan pokok.
As I sat by my bedroom window, I saw 3 men in the moonlight down by the lodge gate. But I thought nothing of it at the time. Oh, if I'd known.
And then?
I went to bed, and it was more than an hour after that I heard my mistress scream. And down I ran, to find her tied to the chair and him on the floor with his head smashed. That's all I know.
Oke. Bang, kita harus ke dapur. Ruang makan dari rumah. Every business booming. Exodia is back on. Be ready. Ready. Break down.
The description of the Randall gang provided by Lady Brackenstall is identical to the one in the Times article.
Oke. Ada kayak masih belum.
These scratches are most definitely made by the picture frame. A trapper's hut. This is Sir Eustace's safe. There may be something important inside. I must ask Lady Brackenstall to open it. This photograph of Lady Brackenstall and her maid Teresa was taken at a port, but which one?
Port. Oh.
So the lady and her maid came from Australia a year and a half ago on this ship. Lady Brackenstall, could you open this wall safe?
No, it is my husband's safe. I do not know the combination.
Suaminya.
We have to open it. Your ladyship? Let us try to open this safe. This safe can be cracked. I only have to pay attention. The dial...
81 2020 tutup. Report.
It is common practice to keep one's valuables in a safe behind a painting. It should not really pose a challenge for a criminal. Antique coins, possibly of value, but they're scattered without care.
Dia lagi kurang sehat gitu. Ini nomor ke ruang bang. Ini kita ngobrol dulu.
What do you know about Sir Eustace, Inspector? What was his reputation?
A charming man when sober, but an absolute demon when he was drunk. In such moments he was apparently capable of anything. Why, once he splashed fuel on Lady Brackenstall's dog and set it alight. Another day he threw a decanter of wine at Miss Wright's head.
The alcohol seemed to madden him.
To the point that we were forced to intervene several times to avoid a scandal.
Ini mas baru 2 ya.
Sir Warthen Brackenstall. Sir Warthen Brackenstall. Lord George Brackenstall.
Bareng. Oh
You
my
should
god.
examine the body of Sir Eustace Brackenstall.
So, Watson, what have you learned from examining Sir Eustace's body?
Well, I can confirm that the death was instant. Sir Eustace was facing his attacker when he received the blow to his head.
Nih,
There are no other apparent injuries.
terlalu parah sih.
A hunter's cabin. A hunting scene.
Suaranya ada kan ya? Tuh. Kita nih mayat. Kepala. Tembak sini.
It was cracked with the force of the blow.
Oh nggak dipukul pakai
That
linggis.
must be the murder weapon. Barefoot, he had therefore been in bed and did not have time to fully dress. Quite a large stick, a formidable weapon.
Body masih ada.
barefoot.
Oh itu ya. Oh my
It is
god.
covered in blood. Sir Eustace might have struck his head upon it while falling from the blow. That is one possible explanation.
Wait. That accident. The death of Sir Eustace could have been due to the Oke, nggak nyambung. Udah. Oke belum. Jadi bisa. Point.
It appears that the bell rope was cut
Oh iya,
by
tapi-
someone taller than me. A fur trader's cabin.
The death was instant.
Antique hunting weapons. The hunting scene. This door leads to the upstairs bedrooms. Apparently the criminals did not venture there. A fur trader's cabin. A deer hunt.
Have you found any interesting clues yet, Mr. Holmes?
Please leave my Mary alone. She's
Oke. Ya. Kita ngomong ke pembantu.
Sir Eustace's doctor speaks of his violent behavior.
Yes, Sir Eustace was an extremely violent man. A detestable human being, to be more precise. It is true that he once threw a decanter at me, and all because I dared to stand up to him in defence of my mistress. Sly devil. God forgive me that I should speak of him so now that he's dead, but a devil he was, if ever one walked the earth. We met him only 18 months ago. She'd only just arrived in London. Yes, it was her first voyage. She'd never been from home before. Wonder with his title and his money and his false London ways. If she made a mistake, she has paid for it, if ever a woman did. She doesn't have any friends here, so it was especially hard for her.
Any possibility that she or her may Mister.
Please leave my Mary alone. She suffered so much, she deserves some rest.
Have you found any interesting clues yet, Mr. Holmes?
Rupanya Sherlock Holmes.
This house feels rather sinister.
Gua disuruh ke bentar, kita ke rumah dulu. Oh,
Baron.
tuh. Ya. Banyak.
This door leads. Sailor's knot. That's interesting. This rope was handled by the murderers. We need a scent hound to follow their trail. I will take it with me. This is the chair that Lady Brackenstall was tied to.
Toby. Si Toby itu iya apa deh begitu anjing.
Come on, Toby. We need the best nose in the British Empire on this case.
Asik. Ini ikut.
I agree with you, Toby, that Watson's shoe is preferable to Mrs. Hudson's cold cut. Let us see how the rope was cut. The fibers at the end of the rope are smoothly cut. Let us try to find out what tool was used to cut the rope. The fibers from this cut appear to be different. The fibers from this cut appear to be different. If I cut the rope with a knife, it matches the original.
Motornya pakai.
I agree with you, Toby, that Watson's shoe is preferable to Mrs. Hudson's cold cup.
DBE cool. Itu be good.
Search, Toby.
Jadi Toby. Oh iya dong.
The intruders entered the shed for some reason when they were making off with the silverware. The scent leads to the well. I should check it.
Anjir.
The intruder's trail is lost behind this wall. The criminals left the house through the French window. They walked to the shed, then across to the well, before fleeing by climbing over the wall. I wonder why they chose such a winding route. Brave Toby, the best nose in the British Empire. Bags of seed. Some empty bags were recently moved. This hook might be useful. This old suitcase sounds hollow. It must be empty. Small gardening tools, nothing of great interest.
Dari situ ke kursi.
There's something glittering at the bottom there, but how can I reach it?
Bareng buang ke sumur.
The bucket can... Silverware. This is hardly a coincidence. The Brackenstall coat of arms. It appears that we have found the stolen silverware.
Kat makan. Family. Robbery is dan for the
The intruder's trail is lost behind this wall. Brave. A hunter. This glass has some wine traces, but no visible beeswing. There is beeswing at the bottom, as if the wine had not been decanted before being poured. This glass has some wine. It is rather strange that only one of these glasses has dregs of beeswing inside it, while the other two are clear.
Okay. This plus people. What do people dream? What? Okay.
A decanter standing next to the open bottle, an inseparable pair indeed. Chateau Kalian Ségur, French wine, Grand Cru. Inspector, I have recovered the stolen silverware.
You are a wizard, Mr. Holmes. And where is it?
In the garden well.
Excuse me?
Unique, isn't it?
Rather absurd. What is the point of stealing silverware and then throwing it down into a well?
Perhaps it was used as a temporary hiding place, or simply the thieves wanted to get rid of it. It is up to us to solve this mystery.
Dulu buat tahu itunya. Tuh, nggak salah. Ya kayaknya bukan balik. Tobi ikut juga. Udah tinggal. Oh, ditinggal. Tobi.
There are 3 glasses on the dining room table. I was wondering if...
Oh, I forgot. When I came to myself the first time, each of them had a glass in his hand. They might have been a father and his 2 sons. They talked together in whispers, and then they left.
We found your silverware, Lady Brackenstall. It had not been taken very far.
Is that true? I am very thankful to you, Mr. Holmes.
Your ladyship? We found your mistress's silverware.
Oh, that's good news. You really are as clever as they say.
Indeed.
Di that ada 1% itu. Jadi jadi person was facing look what side.
These wine bottles are expensive and mostly from France. A bottle of wine is missing here. This candlestick is valuable. It is interesting that it was not also stolen.
Bayangin mah.
An empty silverware box. It appears that the intruders have stolen the contents. The criminals did not thoroughly ransack the house. They only took a little silverware.
Oh. Mulu. Terus apa? Cari tahu tahun 1893 dalam drop off drop later.
Here it is. The shipping company, the Adelaide, Southampton, London line, and its address. Interesting. It must be the place where they keep the records, including the one for the crew of the Rock of Gibraltar.
I think that if you pretend you're from Scotland Yard, they'll give it to you without any problems.
But I have another solution. I'll call in the specialist.
Begins.
Come upstairs, please.
Begins ini kayak mata-matanya si Sherlock Holmes.
At your service, Mr. Holmes.
I need a register, my young friend. If you could borrow it, there will be half a guinea for every one of you. I need the crew list of the Rock of Gibraltar in 1893 and their current employment.
I'm straight on it, Mr. Holmes.
Do you really think they'll find it, Holmes?
My secret police is better than the Yard in many ways.
Oh, welcome.
Here it is, Mr. Holmes. But we can't take it back. It's too risky.
Put it on the table. I'll take care of it. Good work, young Wiggins. This list shows the senior officers of the Rock of Gibraltar, on which Lady Brackenstall
Or
and her
did
maid made their voyage. Lady Brackenstall does not know anyone in England. This must mean that someone on this list is our mysterious visitor. And these are the lists of the senior officers of the Adelaide, Southampton, London Line ships. Let us find out who was in London upon November the 7th. This officer was on a ship that sailed half a month ago. He wasn't in London at the time of the crime.
Mr. Harvey. Good. Let's go.
Mr. Jack Crocker was in London upon the date of the crime, and he is due to depart in 2 days. This list shows the senior... Mr. Jack Crocker was in London upon the date of the crime, and he is due to depart in 2 days. This officer is still at sea, therefore he cannot be involved.
Siapa sih?
This list... I do not think that this sailor has...
Right.
I do not... This officer was on a ship that sailed half a month ago. He wasn't in London at the time of the crime. Mr. Jack...
Thomas.
This officer is still at sea, therefore he cannot be involved. This officer is still at sea, therefore he cannot be involved. This officer is still at sea, therefore he can... Captain Jack Crocker is our mysterious visitor. He was the only one around at the time of the murder.
This Crocker, do you think...
It would be interesting to meet him. Our young friend should be able to find him. Brave Toby. My analysis table. It is useful for my work. This is where I keep my post. Wiggins, could you find a way to bring this Captain Crocker here to us?
Here? Holmes, that could be dangerous.
No problem, Mr. Holmes.
Click.
Mr. Holmes, I was informed that you were looking for me, and I'd like to know why.
Yes, it is important that we talk. You will soon understand why.
Okay. Berat. Dia pakai tuh nih buat motong nih. Talinya itu.
You are acquainted with Lady Mary Brackenstall, are you not?
Yes, I think I do remember her from when I was first officer, but I still don't see...
It seems your relationship went beyond that of mere passenger and first officer.
How dare you?
Indeed, how reckless a feeling is love, particularly if one is prepared to commit a murder in its name.
Explain yourself this instant.
You are aware that the murder made the headlines of the morning press. You read the newspaper report, but to your dismay, found it much fabricated. Once you learned that I wanted to see you, you came straight away. You needed to know what I had found.
You... and what do you know?
That evening, you were with Lady Brackenstall, despite the danger.
I'm not afraid, Mr. Holmes. Besides, all of this is just guesswork.
You would be right if there was no evidence.
What then?
Lady Brackenstall was tied to a chair on the night of the murder. And it was you who tied her up.
You call that evidence?
Lady
You call that evidence?
Yes, as she was tied with a sailor's knot. Your handiwork.
So, it's a sailor who's done it. That proves nothing, Mr. Holmes. I'm not the only sailor in London right now. Your theory is flawed anyway. On the night of the murder, I was aboard the Sharp. I was supervising the repair of a porthole.
At night?
It was an emergency. There was a leak. You can ask the ship's carpenter. He can confirm.
I'm sure that he can.
Perfect. In that case, we have nothing more to talk about. Good evening, gentlemen.
Holmes, what should we do now? Would you like to check his alibi?
No. There is no doubt that these men will testify in his favor, and there will be no way to check.
So, what then?
So, we must work with what we have. We have all the puzzle pieces.
Now I understand why you dissected the bell rope.
Bareng bom. Bareng bom. Bareng bom. Apa ini? Oke. Bareng.
Wiggins, could you ask Mr. Crocker to come here again, please?
Right away.
Why did you make me come here again, Mr. Holmes?
It is over. I know that it was you who killed Sir Eustace Brackenstall.
What?
I know, because of the height at which the rope was cut. The knife used was a sea knife. The knots were sailor's knots, and not least the sheer force that was put behind the killing blow. And because you are the only one who knows Lady Mary Brackenstall in London. And because you love her.
It's true.
It is time for you to tell us the whole truth.
I admit that I loved Mary madly from the first day that I met her. But I never did come to visit her, for I believed that she was in a happy household. When I talked to her maid, who told me everything, I was insane with rage. I was due to set sail for 6 months away. I wanted only to see her again. But it turned into a damnable nightmare when he barged in. He dared raise his hand to her. He was not even worthy of licking her boots. Oh, I regret nothing. I admit I killed the monster out of love for her. She will forgive me if she is able.
Lady Brackenstall already forgave you. She said nothing.
Mary.
But that makes her an accomplice as well as her maid. It places her in danger yet again.
Mr. Holmes.
You would not have managed to protect her.
Till I die, do you hear me? Here is a letter that sets everything clear. And it is the one that should be disclosed to the police. I am the only culprit. Mary had nothing to do with it. Now it is time to end this. You should have let me die. How can I live if Mary suffers?
I am sorry, Captain Crocker, but there has been quite enough death in this case. Inspector, I give you Sir Eustace's killer. He tried his best to perform his own justice.
Well, I'm not surprised. Yes, it was me. I confess.
Here is a piece of evidence that can be used in court.
Perfect. A case that went smoothly for once.
Oh, number.
Holmes, for heaven's sake, whatever's going on?
Oh, hello, Watson. You're early. Did you kill all of your patients?
What? Holmes, where have all these wretched bees come from?
I increased the temperature of the room so as to prevent them from hibernating. I needed to take a sample of honey. But it worked, Watson. We will have honey all year round.
Ridiculous and dangerous.
They're domestic bees, Apis mellifera, such industrious workers. Anyway, Watson, I am sorry, but I must leave you. I'm in rather a hurry.
You have a new case?
Yes, but nothing as thrilling as this experiment. A theft of plants at the Royal Botanic Gardens in Kew. I'm helping a minister who's an old friend of mine. You can join me if you like.
Well, I'll admit that I'd far rather accompany you than remain alone here with these workers of yours. Besides, you'll need a helping hand with the flowers you're intending to bring back.
Watson, however did you guess?
For the great Sherlock Holmes to bother with the theft of plants. Come on, admit that you're planning to spoil your little bees with some rare pollens.
Since when did I become so transparent? Let us go.
Tuh. Oke, untuk hari ini kita bakal main dua seperti itu. Selamat berdatang. Sebelum kasus ini, itu kasusnya pembunuhan.
Well, Holmes, here we are at the Royal Botanic Gardens.
Sekarang ini
There's
kasus
no
beda
doubt
lagi.
this place is beautiful. But are you really intent on investigating the theft of the plants?
Yes, of course.
Oke.
What are we doing, Holmes?
Let us find someone who could help us.
Don't touch anything else, is that clear? Just go and get a bucket of fertilizer, and without turning it over this time. Good day to you, gentlemen. How may I help you? If you are here for a visit, please do come back on Sunday.
I am afraid that it cannot wait. My name is Sherlock Holmes, and this is my friend and colleague, Dr. Watson. We are investigating the theft of plants that took place here 5 days ago. A remarkable collection, I believe.
So you're the one in charge, eh?
A small favor for a friend. Now, to whom do I have the pleasure of speaking?
I am Martin Hamish. I am the Deputy Director of Kew Gardens, and that fellow yonder is Albert. He works here.
I am delighted to meet you. What can you tell us about the plants?
They were rare and exceptional plants. We presented them at our last exhibition. We haven't removed the stand yet. It is still in the large glass house. We only learned of their disappearance the evening after the exhibition, and nobody saw anything.
No doors were forced?
No, but I would imagine that for a thief it would be fairly easy to gain entry, for there are no guards here.
Well, if you don't mind, we will take a look. Now, you say that it is in the large glass house.
Yes, the one just behind me. Just a second, since Albert has nothing else to do. Albert, show these gentlemen where the exhibition was held.
How many people work here?
Only myself, but occasionally 2 students, Albert, whom you have met, and Miss White.
This is how. Jin.
Here it is. This is the place where the stolen plants were exhibited.
Thank you. Is there something the matter?
Yes, there is. All right, the plants were valuable and rare, but it seems to me that the tragedy that took place here only 2 days ago has been entirely forgotten already.
What tragedy are you referring to?
The director of Kew Gardens, Mr. Montague Dunn, he died here just 2 days ago.
We're very sorry. We were not aware. The 2 of you were good friends?
He was my father.
Oh dear. Our condolences. We should not be troubling you. Please do excuse us for the intrusion.
You say that he died here, in the large glass house?
Holmes?
Yes, just here, near the door to the colonial collection. He suffered a heart attack. Just like that. So suddenly.
Kasus
It was
apa lagi
terrible.
nih ya?
Excuse me, gentlemen, but I cannot remain here. If you need me, I'll be in the reserve. That's the room next to the front of the large greenhouse.
Of course, we understand.
Okay, so many. The place. Yeah.
Here is a list of the stolen plants.
Warning.
Do not touch.
The plants were here. All of them were stolen. According to this, they have light and moisture control in some parts of the building.
Can I help you, gentlemen?
Seperti biasanya.
Do you work here?
Yes, but part-time only. I'm also studying botany at the University of London.
You're following in your father's footsteps, then. That is commendable.
Well, even if botany is not my strongest suit, there are people who say that I could be a good manager.
Thank you, young man. We shall see you again soon. Harm House.
Very
Excuse me, but I have to tidy up this room.
pembunuhan 2 hari yang lalu. Gardener and Dominica.
Albert told us about the tragic death of Mr. Dunn, the late director of Kew Gardens.
Tragic indeed. His heart attack was quite unexpected.
Thank you, Mr. Hamish. We shall continue our investigation. Locked.
Mungkin Fantech.
Locked. Nursery. Colonial Collection. Seed House. Dry Tropics. Water Lily Greenhouse. Palm House. Ventilation System. Nursery. Director's Office, Cloakroom and Laboratory. Reserve. A map of Kew Gardens. There is a smell of burning.
Burn.
The symbol is not from Kew Gardens.
That's
A protective mask. Someone set it alight, but it did not burn. A broom handle was half burned. The plants were set alight fairly recently. Some have not completely burned. The remains of a picture frame. A door handle? Why would anyone throw such a thing in the fire? A ventilation system. It should regulate the temperature of the staff buildings. A ventilation... Locked. Seed house. Would you unlock the doors for us?
Do you expect to find the stolen plants there? I am sorry, but those rooms are private.
Thank you, Mr. Hamish. We shall continue our investigation.
nice there. Here we go.
Excuse me, but I have to tidy up this room.
Water lily greenhouse.
Wait a minute.
These trees, with their roots in water, must originate from...
Ah, yes, the bayou. I remember our visit in the case of...
The traces are thinner in some places. These boot marks are fresh. It appears as though someone was dragging their feet. The footprints reveal that someone staggered here. The door was smashed at shoulder height. This door handle is new. It was recently changed. The door handle to the Colonial Collection and that of the fireplace are
Berarti yang
made
makanya
of the
di
same material.
bakar itu matiin.
The esconson was breached near the
Tadinya
handle.
yang bakar itu.
The door was forced from the inside of the Colonial Collection room. The handle was changed afterwards.
I think we need to inspect the Colonial Collection room.
Soil. It should have come from a flower pot. The soil on the side of this flower shelf is the same as that on the ground. Fragments of a flower pot. It fell down here. Very strange. Half of the Colonial Collection is absent. These windows were perfectly cleaned. The smell is strong. It is a detergent. This broken fragment was the result of a heavy
chip.
blow. A fragment of marble, most likely chipped from a statue or sculpture. Part of this greenhouse was emptied and thoroughly cleaned. This pot was broken fairly recently. A flower pot recently fell down from these shelves and was misplaced. This sign is broken. Something heavy was dropped upon it. Blood. Someone fell violently against this sign, and they were injured in the clash. Most likely a head wound. All the clues around here are quite suspicious. I need my imagination to make sense of it all.
Kaget.
No, it wasn't like that. According to this, they have light and moisture control in some parts of the building. This reconstruction reveals a disturbing fact. Montague Dunn damaged the door of the Colonial Collection Room.
He was in a panic, or the door was locked. Was it an accident, or a murder then, I wonder?
Ada clue. Deterjen. Tapi kacanya bersih. Jadi gimana?
My analysis table. It is useful for my work. That is not the one I need. Here it is.
Betul.
That is that is that is that is not that is that is
Yes, step.
that is not that 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 is that is not that is not
Ini akhirnya belum juga.
Here it is. The Divine Syndicate is not a supplier to Kew Gardens. Besides, there is no address here.
So, ke polisi dulu. Udah. Yang tersangka.
I asked Inspector Lestrade to take Montague Dunn's body to Scotland Yard.
It's ready for autopsy then.
Oh. Kita periksa lihatnya di Gigabyte.
First of all, let us carry out an external examination. No redness, stings, or bruises. Nothing suspicious here. There is an injury to the skull, most probably caused by the fall in the water lily greenhouse. The vessels and the pupil of the eye appear quite normal. The air from the lungs carries a faint floral aroma. There are no suspicious marks upon the chest. Let us finish our external examination so that we can proceed with the autopsy. Now, let us examine the internal organs.
Belah kah? Oh ya dong, belah.
The stomach tissues show no visible pathological signs. There is a small amount of content.
Sebenarnya
It appears that he breakfasted lightly, only a short while before his death. The lungs are congested and edematous. The tissue on the inferior lobe of the right lung is damaged, most probably caused by toxins from an unknown plant. The liver is enlarged. It would seem that he was suffering from an alcohol addiction. The liver tissue is brown. There are no visible pathological signs. The heart's blood vessels show no pathological signs. The heart tissue shows no visible pathological signs. My suspicions have been substantiated. Montague Dunn, the director of Kew Gardens, died from poisoning. Plant poisoning, to be more exact.
You mean
Yes, it is murder.
we should inform Lestrade?
Yes, but do remember, Watson, that I discovered the murder. The challenge is mine.
The challenge, Holmes?
We need to locate that deadly plant. Such a perfect murder appeals to me.
Murder of any kind appeals to you. Is that all we need to do?
No. We also have the people working at Kew Gardens. Martin Hamish and the son of the victim, Albert Dunn.
And also Miss White, of whom we spoke with Mr. Hamish. Should we bring them all here for interrogation?
No. A few innocuous questions at Kew will suffice, as well as a discreet delve into their personal affairs. Yes, Watson. It is time now to open the doors.
Even those in the staff building. I suppose that is necessary.
We should also be concerned with the victim himself. After all, we don't know very much about Montague Dunn.
You're enjoying this already, aren't you?
More than a little.
Itu deterjen dari mana?
Mr. Hamish, can you explain to us what happened to the colonial collection? It seems somewhat depleted.
But, oh, most likely maintenance work, tidying up.
You're not sure, then? But you're the deputy director.
Well, I am busy. I cannot be everywhere at once.
As deputy director, how was your relationship with Montague Dunn?
To be honest with you, Mr. Holmes, it could have been better. You see, every Tuesday he would carry out his inspection of the gardens, but it was solely to make an impression. Great pretense that he cared at all. He would give out absurd orders, ignoring anyone else's opinion. He would then disappear for the rest of the week. He was what some might call a man of action. I'd say rather he was overzealous and chaotic. So after all, it was no wonder, perhaps, that he ended up like that, if you take into consideration his kind of lifestyle.
You mentioned that Mr. Dunn led a particular lifestyle.
Well, it's no secret that he enjoyed, celebrating, shall we say? He was a member of the London Smart Set. He was famous for it. That
And?
He had an eye for the ladies, to put it mildly, Mr. Holmes.
Mr. Hamish, can you tell us who holds the keys to the locked greenhouses?
That would be Albert, Mr. Dunn's son. Yes, Albert keeps all the keys, and one can only imagine why.
What do you mean?
Well, he was never interested in Kew Gardens before, and now all of a sudden he is trying to act as if he owns the place. I think he wants to take over the management here. He'd do better to leave that to me. He has no experience. No, none at all.
What is your opinion of Albert as a student of botany?
He's useless. I often tell him so, and I can only give him cleaning tasks. Botany is not his life's work, and his father well knew it. He was furious about it.
He was?
Oh, yes. He forced his son to work here, and he never missed an opportunity to criticize him publicly.
Are you able to elaborate on that?
Well, for example, with our last exhibition here, Mr. Dunn had Albert make a presentation speech. But then, while the lad was speaking, Mr. Dunn interrupted him, asking him difficult questions, making him look like a failure. It was with the intention of making a fool of him, Mr. Holmes.
That must have been terribly humiliating.
Yes, he was crushed, and he had to leave. Everybody was making fun of poor Albert. That is, except for Miss Margaret White, who is such a nice lady and who always takes pity on Albert.
You mentioned a Miss White. Would you tell us more about her?
She is a student who works here part-time. She is quite charming indeed. She possesses a great talent for botany. You should take a look at some of her experiments that she carried out in the laboratory. Ah, if only she were not so naive.
Why naive?
The way she used to flutter around Mr. Montague Dunn. And he couldn't help but be flattered by all her attention. How could an intelligent woman such as Miss White not see through his game? I can only scratch my head and wonder.
Tell me, Mr. Hamish, do you grow the more deadly variety of plant here?
You mean insectivorous? Yes, but nothing larger than that.
Are you aware of the Divine Syndicate?
The Divine what? Is this a joke?
No, I am quite serious.
What a ridiculous name. Anyway, I have never heard of this syndicate.
Thank you, Mr. Hamish. We shall continue our investigation. Who is Miss Margaret White?
Ah, she is the young lady who studies with me. She visits here sometimes to help out with the greenhouses. In fact, she should be here today. She wanted to work at the seed house. That's the small greenhouse across from the large glass house.
We noticed that a part of the colonial collection has been cleared.
Ah, at the moment I'm just dealing with the storage room. I don't know much about the other rooms.
I imagine that your relationship with your father may have been a strained one.
Yes. I cannot say that he was a kind man, for he never listened to me at all. He forced me to work here. But now, after his death, I've been pondering it over. Perhaps he wasn't so wrong about me after all. I have to follow his path, and I have to manage Kew Gardens, and I can do it. I can be as good as any other who works here.
Would you please tell us about Martin Hamish, the Deputy Director?
Well, I have to tell you that Mr. Hamish is not and has never been the Deputy Director of Kew Gardens. My father would not have tolerated it.
Indeed? That is most interesting. He told us that he was.
Yes, because he believes that the management should be passed down to him now that my father is dead. But in actual fact, Mr. Hamish only has the honour of being the garden's longest-serving employee. In fact, if we are to think logically at all, it should be me who takes over the management of Kew Gardens.
Do you not have a good relationship with Mr. Hamish?
I suppose so. But we have very little in common. Mr. Hamish loves his plants and Kew Gardens, and I cannot say that I share his passion.
I see. And how was his relationship with your father?
Oh, he hated my father. It was obvious. He would be furious whenever my father boasted of Kew Gardens in the newspapers or at conferences. He was convinced that my father was stealing all of the credit for himself. But my father treated Mr. Hamish in the same way as he treated anyone. Dismissively. With indifference.
Tell me, have you ever heard of the Divine Syndicate?
No, I cannot say that I have.
Do you hold the keys to all of these locked doors?
Yes, you can have them. But I cannot give you the keys to the cloakroom. The employees' effects are private. I am sure you understand.
Thank you, young man. We shall see you again soon. Water. According to this, they have light and... There was a bottle here. It left behind a trace of the substance that pervaded the laboratory.
Gold dust? Good heavens. What's it doing here?
The gold is almost immune to chemical attacks, so it may be a valuable auxiliary for various experiments.
But why would anyone perform such experiments in a botanical garden?
Several drops of the substance were spilled. Someone carried this bottle around. Several drops of the substance were spilled. Someone carried this bottle around. The bottle is no longer here, but it is possible to detect a faint scent. We need a good nose.
Copy.
It appears as though the protective equipment is missing from here. Such masks are generally worn when dealing with toxic chemicals. Gloves, waterproof aprons, everything one might need for self-protection.
Do they grow dangerous plants here?
A botany book. This student's book belongs to Albert. Chemicals, a sufficient quantity for some serious experiments.
A phonograph used for voice recording. Remarkable.
Yes, this is quite a modern laboratory. I don't hear anything. I don't hear anything.
And it seems clear from these multiple experiments that plants to respond to their environment and have a form of consciousness. Margaret White, February 1895. Report number 245.
Study report.
Martin Hamish's perception of plants. The notion of communication in the plant world has long been considered marginal, yet I remain convinced that some plants do indeed transmit chemical signals in the event of attack.
A study report by Martin Hamish. This is a table for experiments. It resembles my own.
Only this one is kept in good order, Holmes.
Locked.
Holmes, Albert Dunn didn't give us the key to this door.
It does not matter. We will open it. Open. Martin Hamish's locker. A review on rare and exotic plants. Martin Hamish has written several pieces. Father and I, Kew Gardens. Martin Hamish studied chemistry. Interesting. Albert's locker. Specialist articles on shipyards and ship construction. Albert Dunn has a great passion for shipbuilding and the sea. Young Albert, standing with a woman in front of London University. A rejection letter. Miss White's locker. These jewels must be worth a small fortune. Apparently, Miss White is a capable student. A draft of the letter that Miss White sent to her parents. A vanity purse. It is of high quality.
Oke guys, sekian dulu buat ntar malam gue lanjutin.